How many lung cancer survivors are in the audience? Just give me a good, okay. What if I told you that I'm the medical director of cancer survivorship for Atrium Health Wake Forest Baptist, and we don't want you to be cancer survivors? That'd be crazy, right? Because we want you to be people. We don't treat you to stop right at the end of your diagnosis and say, yay, I'm a survivor. We treat you to run through the tape. It's not about just getting to the finish line and saying I did it. It's about getting back out there. We don't look at someone who's broken their leg and say, oh my gosh, you survived a broken leg. Let's talk about that. Let's blame you for not wearing your seatbelt. Let's say, gosh, if maybe you hadn't taken that walk. We don't put that same feeling around a broken leg that we do for lung cancer survivors. And so I think part of finding your voice from a survivor standpoint is really living your life away from us. We treat you for cancer so that you can go out into the world and be a part of that voice. And I think that's an important message as you move forward as lung cancer survivors to say, I got screened, I got treated, now I'm a survivor, and look at me now. You all in this room as lung cancer survivors are the reason that our national cancer survivor rate has decreased for the first time in history. That is you all. You all are a part of a wave of survivors that is going to change the outlook, it's going to change the makeup, and it's going to change the way that we view cancer survivors in the future. You just heard amazing numbers that even when I finished my training, which was many years after the oncologist that spoke, I wasn't told that we could cure metastatic lung cancer. If a patient came in to me as a radiation oncologist with stage 4 lung cancer, 6 months, that was it if you were lucky. The fact that you are able to have long-term remission and talk about living with lung cancer is going to change the narrative and it's going to change the conversation. So when we talk about people and when I talk to people who have similar experiences of I got screened, I got a chest x-ray, I talked to my doctor about lung cancer, everyone, and you all know this better than I do, is going to think about lung cancer of 10 and 20 years ago. And it is up to you because people know you. You live in their communities. You're their daughter, their sister, their friend, their father, their uncle, their teacher, whoever, in their book club, in their Bible study, at their gym. You are the ones that they see, and they are going to be looking to you to say, do I want to get that lung cancer screening test? Oh, well, so-and-so is there. She got the test. Look at her now. And that is going to be, unfortunately, a burden of you guys on the next wave of lung cancer survivors that you are going to carry forward. I'm going to talk a little bit about my ideas of how and why you should do that. The first of all, I worked with lung cancer survivors I started our cancer survivorship clinic 5 years ago. And I approached Jeff Petty, who's spoken to this audience a lot, and I said, Jeff, I want to see your lung cancer survivors. And he said to me, Stacy, give me a minute. I haven't had a lot. I want to enjoy them for a while. And so after some cajoling and after some discussion, Jeff started sending me his lung cancer survivors. And we've now seen over 2,000 lung cancer survivors in our lung cancer survivorship clinic. And the one thing I would love to say is that your body is not your coffin. Your cancer is not your fault. And you don't have to carry around the burden of being a lung cancer survivor. You have one big, beautiful life, and that is the reason that we treated you. That is the reason we cured you, and that's the reason you're sitting here today. So when people look at you and they say, and I know you've all heard all these things, it's the reason I can't go to parties anymore because my husband doesn't want me to strangle someone. Oh, it's because you smoked, or maybe if you would have quit smoking, or it's your fault. As we do for people who break their legs. Again, it's the reason I can't go wrong. You don't have to be good. You don't have to walk through your knees 5,000 miles in the desert. You don't have to pay penance for being a cancer survivor. It is enough that you are a human and you're a survivor, and we're so glad you're here. I want to just sort of, whoops, I'm going the wrong way here, sorry. I want to just sort of talk about when you're talking to your doctor about being a survivor. Oftentimes, it's sort of like when my husband and I talk about loading the dishwasher. He has a very different view of loading the dishwasher than I do, and never the two shall meet. When your doctor looks at you as a lung cancer survivor, they are looking at you with the way that we are trained to look at cancer survivors, which is via medical surveillance. So we are trained, we are trained to look at you to determine if your cancer has come back and if you're still alive. That's how we're trained. We don't get trained on cancer survivorship. And with increasing pressures and decreasing oncologists, we have 15 minutes, and you all have been there when the doctor's been running a mile a minute, or the PAs now and nurse practitioners that are helping us. That is really what a doctor is thinking of when they are thinking of lung cancer survivorship. It's not fair, it's not the way it should be, but that's the way they think about it. What you guys are looking for, and I think, and that is important, obviously, very important. But I think as we start looking at survivorship as a chronic state and as something that is worthy of being spoken about, what we're going to have to start advocating for is education and engagement. What can I do to live my best life after cancer? What can I do to prevent my cancer from coming back? What can I do to advocate for myself or to bring resources to my community? What other screening tests do I need? What do I tell my children about their risk factors for lung cancer? And that's where this whole person approach to survivorship is going to start happening. I think as we move forward, providing my 23-year-old wants to work after 3 p.m., you guys are going to have to advocate for survivorship as well. It's not fair, it's not what you should be doing. You are doing a great job of advocating for treatments, but you really do deserve, and every patient deserves, total health and total care. And that is what a cancer survivor is. My charge when I started the survivorship program 5 years ago was that every single patient who was diagnosed with cancer would have a 1-hour survivorship orientation visit, soup to nuts, starting with diagnosis. As you all might have experienced at the beginning, you have no idea what Charlie Brown's teacher is saying after someone says you have cancer. So we really, for every patient, we sit down and have an hour-long orientation visit where we go over their pathology report, a brief introduction of what or a brief review of what their treatment was, and then we base the rest of the conversation on patient-reported outcomes, what the patient wants to drive the conversation about, whether that's pain, fatigue, fear of recurrence, anything else. But these are all aspects of survivorship and of cancer care that really you deserve as survivors, and that I think that we need to provide. I will also speak briefly about physical symptoms in our data. These are the top 3 sort of buckets that lung cancer survivors talk about. The first is fatigue, and that is something that is not well understood in cancer survivors. So if you look at, I would always, as a radiation oncologist, we're usually at the end of everything, and your body has already been through, even in the diagnosis stage. There was a study about 10 years ago that looked at breast cancer survivors. And if you just took a breast cancer patient who came in with a mass, you did a biopsy, and she had surgery, there was already detectable levels of fatigue because of entrance into the health system as well as a cancer diagnosis. So you already have a patient, I mean, you all know, going through these hospitals. I think that CURE program that Cone is doing sounds amazing, to only have to go through one procedure instead of, not eating after midnight for 5 days in a row. That's wonderful. The amount of coordination in a health system that takes is remarkable, and I admire Dr. Eichert and his team for doing that. But that fatigue is so multifactorial. Some of it we don't know, some of it we can't cure. If I had a magic wand and I literally give light therapy, if I could give light and energy to all of you, I definitely would. But that doesn't mean that it's not important. The things that I think that sometimes doctors miss, I sometimes see patients back in follow-up and they'll have seen their primary care doctor, and I will have treated like a prostate cancer or something, and they'll say, oh, I'm having tooth problems, and my doctor says it's from my prostate radiation. Well, we would have to be pretty far off for that to be. But a lot of times people are just going to, again, put you in that box of being a cancer survivor. And so everything is going to be related to your cancer. Have you talked to your cancer doctor? It's probably your cancer. It's probably your cancer treatment. I think that's a missed opportunity because I think that there are correctable risk factors that cause fatigue that if we are only looking at you as a cancer survivor, we can miss. And that's where I really encourage patients to talk to their doctor. Your heart can cause fatigue. And then can we do something? If it is fatigue, we've ruled out correctable causes of fatigue. Are there things that we can do? There's many cancer rehab programs that are starting now, and then also pulmonary rehab, especially after surgical treatment of lung cancer. We do a lot of referrals to that. The second part is neuropathy. A lot of these different treatment options that are coming, we are seeing more and more of a benefit in integrative oncology. I work with the Atrium team in Charlotte. They have a great integrative team. There are integrative services in multiple health systems that are all represented today. There's a lot of really good data coming out with acupuncture and treatment of neuropathy. The second is weight. So weight loss or weight gain. Swallowing dysfunction, even having surgery can lead to difficulties in swallowing. As we age, all of our muscles atrophy, including the muscles in our esophagus. So a lot of patients are having swallowing difficulties, and it just doesn't feel good to eat if you don't, if it, it's going to regurgitate, it's going to come back up. If you're not feeling well because of the side effects of the immunotherapy that you happen to be on. So I really encourage patients to ask for dietitian and speech therapy. As you move out of treatment or away from intense treatment, your doctor really takes a back seat in your care, and you really have to start filling in your team approach, which is survivorship. Because again, when you're going in that doctor's office, they are looking at you and saying, is their cancer back and are they alive? That is the lens that your doctor's looking at you from. And so that is not all of you. You are a broad spectrum of experiences and personalities within yourself. But the medical way of looking at you as a survivor is in that very narrow thing. And just as it is, as easy as it is to train my husband to rinse the dishes before he puts them in the dishwasher, it is going to be that easy to train your doctor to think of you as a whole person. Some of us are going to do it. It's in our natural state. I'm a radiation oncologist. I work with a lot of physicists and engineers. They are wonderful, kind, smart people, but we're a little bit of nerds. That's why they put radiation in the basement. And so you're just not going to force that physicist to have a brilliant personality sometimes. So unfortunately, that's going to be up to you guys to advocate for yourselves. And it's okay to do that. I'm giving you permission to do that. I treated at Cone for 10 years. I've treated in Winston. You can just say, Dr. Wentworth told me to. It's fine, I got broad shoulders. You can tell Muhammad I told you so if you're one of his patients. The other thing I want to really emphasize, and this is something that I think people forget about and we get wrapped up in, especially as new lung cancer survivors or as this new wave of lung cancer survivors. We have taken one tiger off your back, but most Americans are going to die of heart disease and stroke. And so as you move forward, you are at the beginning of hope for lung cancer patients. And so people are going to be very excited and very enthralled with what a great job we've done with you. And oh my gosh, I get to see you again in 6 months. That can lead them to not think about the fact that you are still a human being with a heart and a carotid artery and peripheral vascular disease and kidney disease. So it is so very important that you get back into regular follow-up with your primary care physician. And again, this is crazy. If I would have said Stacy Wentworth in 2009 was going to be talking to lung cancer survivors about getting back into their primary care physician, I wouldn't have believed it. You are in a time of great shift in perspective. And so it's going to be up to you because your oncologist, just as the oncologist here was so excited about lap plots and waterfall plots, that is, you are at the beginning of this, and it's something, it's uncharted territory for us as doctors. So you have to say, hey, is it okay if I have a colonoscopy? Is it okay if I have, a mammogram? Before, we would think that there was such a great risk of the lung cancer coming back, we wouldn't stop there. The other thing, and this is again, your body is not your coffin. You don't have to walk 1,000 miles on your knees in the sand. Emotional processing of the cancer treatment that you've had is vitally important. Your doctor may or may not be able to do that with you. Your family may or may not be able to do that with you. You are the most important person in someone's life, and they want desperately for you to be okay. That does not mean that it's not important and that you don't deserve it. And I think that there is a growing awareness now of cancer patient needs, that you don't have to be guilty for asking for it. It is not out of the realm of possibility. At all of the major health systems here in the Triad, we all have social workers and cancer counselors that are available to you, as well as your care partners, if somebody next to you is having a hard time with your cancer diagnosis. Oftentimes the care partner that strapped you on their back and got you through cancer treatment is almost through as much PTSD, some of the studies say, as the patient, because they're watching the person they love most in the world suffer. So it is particularly important that if you are noticing signs and symptoms of fear of recurrence, what I call intrusive thoughts, or you think about your cancer a lot, or you think about, oh my gosh, I'm waking up, especially if you're driving other people in your life crazy about this, it is okay, it's necessary, and it's not something, again, that your doctor may be clued into, but it's okay to ask for that. And just because your doctor can't do it, it's been probably, 15 years since I prescribed any insulin type products. Lantus had just come out, which that was like 87 million years ago. We can't all do everything for everyone, but it doesn't mean that there aren't people in your health system that can't. My favorite resources, you guys are already hooked up with the Lung Cancer Initiative, which is great. I really like Livestrong. You're in the house of Hirsch Wellness. They're just right down the street across from Cucino Forno. They also offer online classes. I have been bathed in sort of complementary and integrative oncology. There's a lot to the cancer journey that I can't help you unwrap. And that is the stuff of writing, it's the stuff of art, it's the stuff of photography, it's the stuff of Tai Chi and yoga, and that is returning to be the best person you can be to go out into this world. The other thing I will say is that I think my passion 20-ish years into my career is what you guys are doing here, and that's changing the conversation around cancer. I think we have to start changing the way that we talk about cancer as a battle that is won or lost, and instead of something that we can all do together. It's a part of community. It's going to be a part of all of our lives in some way or another, whether it's us that's affected or whether it's someone that we love. And how do we start moving that conversation forward into a more productive space rather than pointing the finger or working out our anxieties of cancer on each other? So Livestrong, Hirsch Wellness, and then any sort of, does sugar feed cancer? Should I go keto? All that kind of stuff. The cancer dietitian is my friend Julie, and that's where I send all my patients. She's evidence-based. She's an oncology certified dietitian. She's a really excellent source if you are wondering about diet, supplements, all that kind of stuff. So that's sort of what I got here. And then you can just sort of follow what I'm doing. That's my website. And then Cancer Culture is the Substack newsletter that I started just because I really, after 20 years of hearing you guys say the same things that people say to you when you're diagnosed or say to you when you're in your survivorship journey, I had to start having a larger conversation. And so that's what really I'm trying to do, is trying to shift the conversation from what we think it's about to what it really actually is when you are a cancer patient. So that's it for me, and I'll take any questions about that.
But my name is Carlie Barnett. I am a nurse navigator at the other LCI, the Living Cancer Institute down in Charlotte. We're actually gonna talk about questions to ask your care team today. In my opinion, cancer care is not a one-man sport. It is a team effort. That's been brought up a few times today, and I really do believe that it takes many, many, many people to support one person going through cancer. We're going to talk about a bunch of stuff. Many of these could probably be a presentation in and of itself, so bear with me, we'll get through it. First of all, what is a nurse navigator? It looks different at different places, but overall, just kind of what do I do? I've been doing this for the past little over 4 years. Worked in oncology my whole career. It's all kind of culminated in this, and quite honestly, I don't think I'd do anything else. I always tell my patients, if you don't know what to do, if you don't know where to go, if you're confused and you're like, I don't even know where to start with me. I'm kind of the middleman between all the services that patients might encounter, whether it be medical oncology or radiation or surgical oncology or supportive oncology. And they're like, I know a doctor told me about this, or I don't remember what clinic prescribed this drug, or, I am that central point of contact throughout their whole cancer journey. I also assist with eliminating barriers to care. So what is standing in the way of my patient successfully completing treatment? Is that transportation? Is it finances? Is it understanding, just needing to know more about their disease process? Is it childcare, elder care? What's going on? What can we do to make that a bit easier? And then getting people connected with resources, whether that be within the cancer center or within the community, to help those barriers. Like, what can we do? I think when you approach cancer care and you're like, okay, what questions am I going to ask my doctor? That can be really overwhelming. Like, I don't even know where to start. Like, right? And it can be to a point where it's almost crippling. As a nurse, I love starting with an assessment, taking a step back, thinking, okay, where are we? What do we anticipate? And thinking about, okay, what do I need? What's happening in my life that I need help with? What's happening in my life that could stand in the way of me getting treatment? What's happening? Another way of looking at that is, what makes you worried? Are you worried about childcare? Are you worried about elder care? Are you worried about transportation? And some of those, figuring out what we need can direct the questions that we need to ask our care team. I highly encourage this be done by patients and by caregivers. Those needs can look very different. They can look very similar. And this is something that I think should be done periodically throughout cancer care. So when you're diagnosed, when things change, treatments are changing, when jobs change, okay, I lost my job, my needs are changing, those questions are changing. I love encouraging my patients to identify who's on their support team. So that can be in multiple places, but in 2 significant places is that at home, and then who is your support team at your doctor's office. So at home, having those conversations with your loved ones and identifying who can be there to help with meals, help with transportation, be that support at home. Having those conversations early on, I encourage my patients when I meet them the first time, I'm like, who's on your support team? Who do you have? Because when something comes up, you don't want to be being like, hey, so-and-so, like, this is going on. Let me explain what's happened over the past few months, and then let me explain what I need. If there's already some people who have verbally agreed to be like, yes, I got you, like, you don't need to worry about calling me at midnight because you're headed to the ER and you need somebody to watch your kids. Like, I'm there. And that takes a little bit of the stress off of, okay, I have a need. Asking for help is really hard. I'm terrible at it. I'm so bad at it. As a nurse, I can do it all. But asking for help is really hard. So having those people that you trust and will help you. And then at your doctor's office, this list can be long. It can be shorter depending on where you're getting treatment, but I can almost guarantee that there's somebody in your doctor's office, in your cancer center that can give you support. I love my provider colleagues. They're amazing, but they're not able to do it all. They can't provide everything. I my mom had surgery for stomach cancer in 2015, and we had met the oncologist and the surgeon so many times. We had talked about it, and we were at her last visit before her surgery, and the doctor said, okay, what questions do you have? And my mom rattled off questions about flowers, about, about support, about friends visiting, about all these things, and the sweet little fellow just like got really big bug eyes and was like, I have no idea, but I'm gonna find you somebody who does. So there are people, whether that's a nurse navigator or care coordinator or something that might go by a different name, your social workers, your chaplains, somebody to offer spiritual support, emotional support. Is there a pharmacist to go over your medications, give you a list of when to take them and what to look out for, and to give you a comprehensive view of that? Is there, the supportive oncology services, integrative, music therapy, art therapy? We have at the Levine Cancer Institute have a very extensive supportive oncology department that I try to get all my patients plugged into. Awesome music therapist. Did you know you could use a kazoo to help with your shortness of breath? If you didn't, you can. Just doing that pursed lip breathing, doing it in a fun way. If you've had surgery, you get the incentive spirometer. That's boring. Can you kazoo along with some fun music and help with that breath control? There are people out there. If you're not offered this kind of support, please ask for it. Let's see. Then when you are diagnosed with cancer, the amount of information that is dumped on patients and their caregivers is just extensive. When I first meet with a patient and their family, this is something we talk about, having a plan ahead of time to process all this information. It's gonna be a process. It's not something that's gonna happen the first time you meet your doctors and you're gonna be like, yep, I got it, I understand everything you're saying. So thinking about who's coming with you to your appointments. Having 2 sets of ears is way better than having 1. Having 3 sets of ears is even better. Now with visitor restrictions, that might be the limit, but always having people on phone or whatever. Having somebody whose job is there to just take notes, to write down the bullet points. An alternate to that, if you're by yourself, having somebody on the phone, on speaker, or like when you get to your car, jotting down some notes, the key points, the plan of care, or using like voice memo on your phone. I've done that myself with appointments, like before I get home and all the facts kind of get jumbled up in my head. Before I even turn my car on, I'm writing notes down, so by the time I get home, I have something to refer to. Writing down your questions ahead of time. Inevitably, your doctor or whoever you're in front of is gonna be like, what questions do you have? We just spent 20 minutes talking about your plan and your scans and all that. What questions do you have? And you're like, I know I had some. They're all gone. And then you get in your car and you're driving home and they're like, they all came back to me, right? We don't want you going home confused or not getting your questions answered. So I encourage my patients to keep a notebook, a note on your phone, something that, and as you're doing yard work or doing dishes or watching TV and a few days leading up to your appointment, you think of a question, jot it down, pull that out, make sure you ask your doctors that. That's what we're here for. It's okay to stop your doctor or your care person or whoever you're meeting with and be like, wait, I don't understand. Like, can you please repeat that? You're not gonna offend anybody. You're not gonna be a bother. You're not gonna be labeled as the difficult patient. But we want you, my goal as a navigator is for my patient to leave that clinic with a good, well-rounded understanding of what's going on. I love it when I hear patients say, what I hear you saying is, or from my understanding, the plan is, and just kind of recapping at the end of a visit. Depending on what doctor you're seeing, it could have been an hour of talking. The big plan could have gotten lost in that, and just kind of a good summary statement. And another thing to think about as we're thinking about learning, because when you have a cancer diagnosis, as a patient, as a caregiver, it's a whole new world. Healthcare is a whole vocabulary and in and of itself, and there's a lot to learn. But thinking about how do you learn best? Do you learn by reading? Do you learn by talking to somebody, by watching a video? Interacting, if we have Pleurix cares, do you learn by actually like practicing on a teddy bear or something or whatever we have, and asking for information in that format? Are there YouTube videos available? The lung department at the Living Cancer Institute has a dedicated YouTube page that has videos on like how to get in and out of a car from like our PT, OT people, how to transfer from bed to wheelchair, some of those things that you don't think about until you're at home and you're like, how do I do this? No one taught me how to do this. So there could be YouTube videos available specifically to help when those things come up. I've talked a few things about resources within your cancer center, but there's also a lot happening in the community. I try to get my patients connected. People can be a little bit resistant to support groups, and especially my older gentlemen don't always love it, and they like roll their eyes at me. But I'm like, get around some people. Get around some people who are going around the same thing. So I love that you guys are here. You're not alone. You're not alone in this fight. There are so many people that are around you. So support groups, Live Long is an excellent one in North Carolina. If you've not heard of that, look them up. They're amazing. Community organizations. I try to get all my patients connected with this LCI, like there is another LCI. Go-To Foundation, longevity. There's stuff out there to support you and your family members. Again, the supportive oncology within your cancer center, financial support. Lung cancer doesn't get a lot of money. It goes usually to our pink friends, but there is some. There's some, so ask about it. Getting the gas card program, I'm like, you're driving? Let's fill this application out now. There's stuff out there, so looking for it. What resources are available for food insecurity? Can we do food bank referrals or food pantries, churches? Are there senior meals? What can we do to help make that easier? Transportation, it's what I spend a lot of my time on. It's not always easy, but it's out there. And then caregiver support. Caregivers, huge round of applause to our caregivers. I could probably spend a year talking about how much I admire you all. But what is there available? The Living Cancer Institute has a dedicated caregiver, care partner support group that meets monthly. I know there's other organizations that do similar things. So getting connected, because it's a whole new world when you're caring for somebody with cancer. And we don't want to ignore our caregivers. Sometimes they're like, I'm good. This person has a disease. We want to take care of them. But in reality, we need to take care of our caregivers just as much. As a navigator, I love advocating for my patients, but I almost as much love advocating for them to advocate for themselves. They speak up. You do have a voice. Your voice is most important when you're sitting in that room with your doctor. You as the patient are most important, and what you think and what you're feeling, what you're concerned about is important. I want you to speak up. You're not bothering your healthcare team by saying, hey, stop, I need this. I don't understand this. I need somebody to talk about this. I need more information about this. And then thinking about who can be your voice when you need help. Sometimes we go into appointments and we're so tired, or we're in so much pain, or we're just not feeling up to being like, I need help. Like, I need this from my doctor. Having that person to be like, I got you. I was that for my mom when she was going through stomach cancer treatment. Being like, we need to stop. She had a doctor that would like start with the best case scenarios, and then he would end with the worst case scenarios, and all my mom would remember was the worst case scenarios as he was like backing out the door. And I was like, I need you to stop talking, like right now. So who can be that person for you? Another way of having a voice when you're not able to physically talk is by filling out advance directive paperwork. It comprises a two-part form. In North Carolina, it's one form. In South Carolina, it's two separate forms, but the first being a healthcare power of attorney, where you can designate a person or two people to make decisions if you're ever unable to communicate your wishes. So yes, this could be related to cancer. This could also be related to a car accident on the way home, God forbid. Like, we don't know what's going to happen. I encourage, when I sit in front of families, I encourage everybody in the room to fill it out. I provide blank copies to everybody who's sitting in front of me. You do not have to fill it out just because you have cancer. I look at it as a gift to your family members, so they, one, don't have to fight over who makes those decisions, or fight over what kind of decisions are made. North Carolina law, it goes, if you're unable to communicate your wishes, it goes to your spouse. If the spouse is not in the picture or not willing or not available, it goes to children. It does not delineate between children. So if you have multiple children, it's equal say. I know me and my siblings, I wouldn't be pretty. Like, we would fight. And how much do we want that happening when our loved one is ill? Like, that doesn't seem like a good situation. Atrium has a great website, atriumhealth.org/yourcareyourchoice. Great information about filling out those forms. They do in-person and virtual classes that are open to the public to fill them out. I could seriously talk about advanced directives for like a whole half hour. So if you have more questions about that, please come talk to me or about any of this. It does not require any sort of legal attorneys or anything. North Carolina form is 2 unrelated witnesses and a notary. And they are working on getting that notary to not be a thing. So it would make it easier to fill out and complete. Once you have it completed, give a copy to your doctor so you can get scanned into your chart so everybody has access to it. But some statistics, throw out some numbers. I think they're kind of sad, but it's a lot of what I see as well, that 60% of people think it's extremely important that their families not be burdened by making the decisions for them. 90% of people say talking with their loved ones about their medical decisions is important. However, only 27% of people have done so. And then 80% of people think having end-of-life conversations with their doctor is important. However, only 7% of the people have actually had those conversations. So I encourage you to have that voice to make those steps. So if you were ever in that position, it would be all laid out for you. We could spend forever talking about clinical questions to ask your doctor. I don't want to get into the too nitty-gritty. I think Dr. Sherwood and Dr. Eichert and Dr. Wentworth talked a lot about those things already. And everybody's different, but my platform, my big thing here is just to know your pathology. If you don't know what it is, if you don't know if they've run next-gen sequencing or molecular studies or tumor profiling or whatever they call it, if you don't know if they've done that, ask. I think Dr. Sherwood said that. Like, make sure that's been done. That might not be applicable now, but as things are growing so fast, who knows? They may find a mutation that they find a drug for in a year or so, or in 6 months, or there's a lot coming down. I threw this in here. Dr. Sherwood had something similar. The amount of mutations list is vast, it's growing. It drives our treatment decisions. If we don't know if you have a mutation, we can't treat it. If we don't know what's going on, how are we able to make those treatment decisions? The other part, Dr. Sherwood also talked about PD-L1. Again, if you don't know what your PD-L1 is, ask. Knowing what your staging is. Being informed is of the utmost importance, in my opinion. Asking about treatment options, asking if immunotherapy is an option, asking if surgery is an option. Just because somebody says it's so doesn't mean it is. Ask those questions. If you're feeling confused and you're like, he never even brought up targeted therapy. It could be a reason why, but if your doctor doesn't address it, ask the question. Asking about clinical trials. Is there any clinical trials available? Within reasonable travel distance, whatever is logistically plausible for you and your family. Having an idea of timing of scans and treatments, am I coming every day? Am I coming every 3 weeks? Am I coming every 6 weeks? What's the kind of trajectory plan? That way you're not caught off guard. How to maximize your health during treatment. So getting connected with some of those support services, is there a dietitian I can talk to help me eat better? Is there rehab that I can see to make me stronger? What can I do to maximize my health during that treatment? We talked a little bit about lung screening, being aware of that for our loved ones, and then survivorship, which I thought Dr. Wentworth did an amazing job talking about. And then if you're feeling like you're not getting the answers to your questions, if you're feeling uncomfortable with the care you're getting, if you leave your doctor's office and you're just like, something's not right, I don't know what it is, I encourage you to seek a second opinion. Your care is most important. It's important that you're comfortable with the care you're receiving. You're not going to hurt your provider's feelings by asking for a second opinion. I saw a patient recently who was told she should go on hospice. There's nothing else we can do. I got connected to her through Lynn with Live Lung because she went to Lynn because she was like, I don't even know what to do. What do I do? And Lynn was like, let's get you a second opinion, and connected her with me, and I got her connected with our schedulers, and we got her on, and she's on chemo, and she's doing great, and it's been a while. I think I met her last November at the gala. So if there's something in your brain going, there's something off, or I have more questions, it's okay to look for a second opinion. I also could look at it as just peace of mind. If you don't necessarily intend to switch your doctor, but you just want somebody else to look over your records and just be like, yes, that you're doing the right thing, you've had the right stuff, I agree with the plan of care, just peace of mind, I think goes a long way. It could just be for a clinical trial evaluation, going to a different hospital, say I need help. Speak up and ask your questions, and most importantly, you are the most important person in that room.